He boarded the plane with no luggage, and no one could remember him. What if your past vanished overnight, leaving you a stranger to yourself and everyone around you? This is the gripping story of a man fighting to reclaim his stolen identity and expose a hidden world where memories could be erased and rewritten. Stay with us till the very end, because the truth you're about to hear will change everything. Before we start, tell me, where are you watching or reading from? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Let's connect before the journey begins. The airport buzzed with the usual flurry of activity. Families saying their goodbyes, business travelers rushing through security lines, and flight crews preparing for the next departure. Amid the chaos, one figure moved quietly, almost unnoticed. He was a man in his mid-30s, dressed simply in a plain jacket and worn jeans. He carried nothing, no suitcase, no backpack, not even a small carry-on bag. His hands were empty, and his eyes carried a curious calmness, a hint of something deeper beneath the surface. As he approached the gate, passengers glanced at him briefly, their gazes flickering with mild curiosity. Why did he have no luggage? No one could recall seeing him on any flight manifests, and yet here he was, stepping steadily onto the plane without hesitation. Flight attendants exchanged brief looks, but offered no questions. Maybe it was just another quiet traveler, or perhaps they sensed that this man was different. Something about him felt out of place. He found a seat near the window, settled in, and stared silently ahead. Outside, the engines roared to life. The plane rolled down the runway, and soon they were airborne, cutting through clouds into a sky painted with fading hues of sunset. Around him, passengers chatted, read, or dozed, but he remained still, like a shadow among the living. A subtle unease began to spread through the cabin. People noticed his steady, unblinking stare and the way he seemed almost disconnected from the world around him. Whispers started among passengers. Who is he? Why does he have no bags? Have I seen him before? But no one had answers. The man's face was oddly familiar, yet no one could place him. It was as if he existed in the periphery of their memories, but never quite fully entered. Flight attendants passed by, offering drinks and snacks, but he refused everything. When one gently asked if he needed assistance, he only shook his head, his eyes momentarily flickering with a strange intensity, as if hiding secrets too heavy to share. No phone, no wallet, no identification, nothing visible. It was as if he had stepped out of thin air onto this plane, carrying only the weight of silence. The flight continued over vast stretches of ocean, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting the cabin in twilight shadows. People tried to focus on their books or devices, but the mysterious passenger lingered like a ghostly presence, drawing uneasy glances. What story did he carry? What past lay hidden behind his quiet demeanor? No one knew, but something was certain. This was no ordinary traveler. His lack of luggage was just the surface of a deeper enigma. The man seemed to carry with him a void, a blank slate that no one could fill. And as the hours passed, the seed of curiosity grew into a silent question hovering in the cabin air. Who was he? Where did he come from? And why could no one remember him? The moment the plane touched down, a subtle tension filled the air. The man with no luggage, the one no one could place or recall, was immediately flagged by airport security. As passengers hurried to their destinations, a team of officers quietly approached him, their expressions a mix of suspicion and puzzlement. He stood calmly, saying nothing, as if he expected this to happen. Yet, when they asked for identification, he could offer none. His pockets were empty except for a small folded piece of paper with strange symbols scribbled on it, nothing resembling a passport or ID card. Back in the airport's interrogation room, the questions began. Who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get on the plane without any documentation? The man's face remained blank, his eyes distant, as if searching for answers within himself. Authorities ran his fingerprints through every possible database: criminal, immigration, missing persons. Yet there was no match. No record, no name, no trail. It was as if he simply did not exist on any official ledger. News of this baffling mystery spread rapidly. Journalists swarmed the airport, cameras flashing as they tried to capture a glimpse of the man who had boarded a plane without identity or luggage and disappeared from everyone's memory. The media dubbed him the invisible passenger, sparking public fascination and fear. How could someone just vanish from the records and from the memories of friends and family? Was he a spy, a ghost, or something stranger? Meanwhile, the man himself struggled with a growing unease. He felt the weight of silence pressing down on him, a gnawing emptiness where memories should be. Despite the officer's questions, he could not recall his own name, the city he came from, or even why he had boarded that plane in the first place. The only clue he clung to was the cryptic note in his pocket, now carefully unfolded and studied under harsh interrogation lights. The words, "Find the truth before it's too late," were written in a hurried scrawl, but no signature or indication of origin. Authorities scoured the plane, looking for clues. Cabin crew were interviewed, but no one remembered seeing him before boarding. Surveillance footage showed him walking calmly through the terminal, but revealed nothing about his identity or origin. Passengers were questioned again and again, but none could recall ever meeting him or recognizing his face beyond vague, fleeting impressions. Even more baffling was the realization that no social media presence existed for this man. He had no digital footprint, no profiles, no messages, no photos tagged or shared. It was as though he had never lived in the digital age, which was impossible for someone appearing so ordinary. Technology offered no answers, only deepening the mystery. The airport became a ground zero of bewilderment, where officials faced a paradox: a man who was physically real, yet absent from every record of existence. Psychologists consulted on his case, theorized about amnesia or trauma, but found no evidence. The man passed basic cognitive tests, proving his mind was sharp, but his past was locked behind an impenetrable barrier. In the midst of this chaos, the man tried to piece together any fragment of his identity. He closed his eyes, willing a memory to surface, a name to echo in his mind. But all he found was darkness, a void that seemed to swallow the very essence of who he was. Each failed attempt left him more isolated, a stranger in a world that should have been familiar. The public's interest grew into obsession. Forums and chat groups speculated wildly, some claiming he was a spy erased by a secret government agency, others whispering of supernatural forces at work. But amidst the noise, one truth remained. No one, not even the man himself, could remember who he was. And so the invisible passenger became a living enigma, real yet unreal, present yet forgotten, a man lost between existence and oblivion. His journey to reclaim himself had only just begun, but already the world around him was starting to doubt if he ever truly belonged. The man's existence became a peculiar paradox. He was physically present in the world, yet utterly erased from everyone's memories. Friends, family, colleagues, none of them could recall ever knowing him. Authorities reached out to hospitals, workplaces, even schools, but no record matched his face or name. His entire life seemed to have been wiped clean, as though someone had scrubbed the pages of his past until only a blank canvas remained. When journalists tried to track down his supposed identity, they hit dead ends at every turn. No birth certificates, no school records, no employment history. It was as if he had never lived any ordinary life at all. The man was a ghost walking through a world that refused to see him, an invisible man in plain sight. The deeper the investigation went, the more impossible it all seemed. The world around him reacted with a mix of fascination, fear, and confusion. The media frenzy painted him both as a mystery and a threat. Conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed he was a spy whose memories were deliberately erased. Others whispered that he was part of a secret government experiment gone wrong. Online forums debated endlessly, but no consensus emerged. The man himself had no answers, only an overwhelming feeling of emptiness where his past should have been. Social services were called in, but they found no family members willing or able to identify him. Hospitals confirmed he wasn't a recent patient. Law enforcement double-checked missing person lists, but he wasn't listed anywhere. No one could claim him. To the world, he was a nobody, a man without a history or a name. At the airport, passengers who had sat beside him on the flight struggled to place him. Some swore they had seen him before in casual moments, at a cafe, on the street, but no one could say when or where. It was as if their memories distorted or faded just as they reached for him. The man's face lingered on the edges of recognition, but always slipped away like a shadow in the fog. Even the people closest to him felt a strange dissonance. Police officers who had interacted with him admitted to feeling an odd chill, as if the man were somehow disconnected from reality. Psychologists suggested dissociative amnesia or a rare neurological condition, but tests revealed nothing. His mind was intact, sharp and aware, but his history was locked in a fortress with no key. The man himself became desperate to reclaim his identity. Each day, he tried harder to evoke memories, names, faces, places, but all that emerged was fragmented and fleeting, like fragments of a dream dissolving upon waking. Sometimes he would wake from a restless sleep with a glimpse of a child's laughter or the scent of a familiar place, only to have it vanish instantly. Without any ties to the world, he drifted from place to place under supervision, always accompanied by officials tasked with protecting him and uncovering the truth. Yet no matter how far he traveled or how many strangers he questioned, the void in his mind remained vast and impenetrable. Meanwhile, the mysterious note tucked in his pocket became his only tangible clue. The strange symbols and the phrase, "Find the truth before it's too late," haunted him like a warning. He held on to it tightly, hoping it would somehow guide him through the darkness of his forgotten life. The man's story became a symbol of loneliness and isolation in a hyper-connected world. Despite living among millions, he was utterly alone, erased not just from records, but from human memory itself. His plight raised uncomfortable questions about identity, memory, and what it truly means to exist. In quiet moments, when the noise of the world faded away, he wondered if anyone truly cared. Would someone, somewhere, remember him? Or was he destined to remain a ghost, forgotten, invisible, lost in a world that no longer held a place for him? And yet, beneath the despair, a spark of determination flickered within him. If no one else could remember, he would have to remember for both of them. The search for his past was not just about reclaiming a name. It was about reclaiming his very existence. As the days passed, the man steeled himself for a journey unlike any other, a journey to find the fragments of a life erased, to pierce through the fog of forgotten memories, and to discover who he truly was beneath the shadows. Confusion settled over the man like a dense fog, thick and suffocating. Each morning, he woke in a sterile room, surrounded by unfamiliar faces whose expressions blended concern and curiosity. Yet none of these people could tell him who he was, nor did they hold the answers he desperately sought. The emptiness within him was palpable. His own mind, once a sanctuary, had become a labyrinth with no exit. He struggled to grasp even the simplest details of his existence, his name, his origins, or the reason he had boarded that plane without any belongings. He often stared into the mirror, searching for a reflection that might spark recognition. But all he saw was a stranger's face, a man whose eyes revealed nothing but silent questions. He would trace the lines on his skin, hoping that physical familiarity could ignite the memories locked away. Yet, nothing stirred. No flashbacks, no names, no past experiences came to him. Just a deep, aching void. The small note folded in his pocket was his sole companion. A cryptic message scrawled in hurried handwriting. Find the truth before it's too late. He had examined it countless times, each reading more puzzling than the last. Who had written this note? Why was it in his pocket? And what truth was he supposed to find? These questions haunted him relentlessly. With no memory to anchor him, even the simplest choices felt overwhelming. When officials asked about his past, he could only shrug. When offered clothes, food, or shelter, he accepted out of necessity, but without emotional connection. Every action felt mechanical, as if he were a marionette with missing strings. His mind was awake and aware, yet strangely disconnected from the world around him. Sometimes fragments flickered at the edges of his consciousness, brief, indistinct visions like blurred photographs. A laugh, a street corner, a face glimpsed in shadow. But these moments evaporated before he could seize them. They teased him, promising answers only to retreat into silence. It was a cruel torment, fueling his confusion and desperation. He began to wonder if the note was a warning or a plea. Was there a time limit before the truth vanished completely? Did someone want him to find the answers? Or was the message a trap meant to lead him deeper into the unknown? The uncertainty gnawed at him, mixing fear with a fragile hope. Despite the fog surrounding him, the man refused to give in to despair. He tested his mind with puzzles and questions, determined to keep his thoughts sharp. When Anna, the detective assigned to his case, visited him, he listened closely, searching for any clue in her words or demeanor. Her presence was a small comfort in his lonely world, a reminder that someone still cared. At night, he lay awake in the quiet room, wrestling with his mind. Sometimes he whispered possible names aloud, hoping one might spark recognition. Sometimes he reached out to touch objects around him, as if their textures held hidden memories. He longed for a single thread to pull that might unravel the mystery of his past. But the harder he tried, the more elusive his own identity became. It was as if the man had been erased, not only from the world, but from himself. His confusion was profound. He did not know who he was, where he belonged, or what awaited him beyond the veil of forgetting. Yet within that confusion, a spark of determination endured. He knew that to survive, he must embrace the uncertainty and push forward. The note's message echoed in his mind. The truth had to be found. If he lost himself entirely, the world would lose a piece of its humanity. So, despite the haze clouding his mind, he vowed to search for answers. For memories, for identity, for meaning, whatever lay hidden in the depths of his forgotten past. The journey ahead was daunting and unknown, but surrender was not an option. He was lost, yes, but not defeated. And as dawn broke over the city, the man prepared to face another day, hoping that somewhere in the shadows, the truth awaited him, waiting to be discovered before it was too late. Detective Anna Carter was known for her sharp intuition and relentless pursuit of truth, and the case of a mysterious passenger had captured her attention from the start. As the lead investigator, she felt an unusual pull, a strange connection to the man whose existence seemed to defy all logic. Unlike others who saw only a baffling enigma, Anna sensed that beneath the surface lay a story waiting to be uncovered, a truth buried beneath layers of silence and forgotten memories. Her first encounter with the man was at the sterile interrogation room, where he sat silently, eyes distant but observant. She introduced herself gently, trying to break through the invisible walls that separated him from the world. "Can you tell me your name?" she asked, her voice steady yet compassionate. The man only shook his head. No name, no past, no clues. But Anna refused to let the case go cold. From that moment, she dove deep into every available resource: security footage, passenger lists, background checks, scrutinizing every detail for anything out of place. She interviewed the flight crew, passengers, and airport staff, hoping to find someone who might recall a detail, a fleeting memory. But each lead seemed to vanish as quickly as it appeared. It was like chasing shadows in a dense fog. What intrigued Anna most was the man's demeanor. He wasn't frightened or aggressive. Instead, there was a calm resilience about him, a quiet determination hidden beneath his confusion. His eyes, when they met hers, held a spark of recognition, as if he knew something she didn't, or perhaps remembered fragments that he couldn't yet articulate. The detective's instincts told her this was no ordinary case of amnesia or identity theft. The disappearance of his past was too absolute, too clean. No records, no digital footprint, no connections. It was as if someone, or something, had deliberately erased him from existence. Anna's mind raced with possibilities: experimental technology, a covert operation, a conspiracy so deep that it defied easy explanation. In her search for answers, Anna encountered resistance from higher authorities. Some agencies labeled the case as a security risk, urging her to step back. Others dismissed the man as a runaway or mentally ill. But Anna's resolve only strengthened. She believed the truth was buried beneath layers of deception and silence, and she was determined to peel them away. One day, while reviewing the man's belongings, just a note in his pocket, Anna noticed something unusual about the handwriting. It was erratic but purposeful, a hurried scrawl with strange symbols interspersed. Her curiosity piqued. She consulted experts in cryptography and handwriting analysis. The consensus was surprising. The note resembled the writing found in an old journal belonging to a missing scientist known for researching memory manipulation. This revelation sent a ripple of new possibilities through the investigation. Could the man be connected to this scientist? Was he a subject, a victim, or even a witness to something dangerous? Anna's mind whirred with questions, but for the first time, she felt a tangible lead, something solid to hold on to in the sea of uncertainty. Determined to protect the man and uncover the truth, Anna began spending more time with him. She spoke softly, sharing stories of her own life, hoping to spark recognition or trust. Slowly, a fragile bond formed between them, a connection born from shared determination and the unspoken hope that answers might come. Yet the deeper they dug, the more complicated the mystery became. Shadowy figures appeared on the fringes of their investigation, hinting that powerful forces were watching. Anna sensed danger but refused to back down. For the man whose identity had been stolen, for the truth buried beneath layers of forgotten memories, she would fight. The investigator's interest was no longer just professional. It was personal. Anna understood that this case was about more than a missing identity. It was about humanity, memory, and the fragile threads that bind us to our past. She vowed to uncover the man's story, no matter how deep the darkness or how formidable the obstacles. As the days turned into nights filled with tireless work, Anna kept returning to the note's haunting message: find the truth before it's too late. Together with the man who had nothing left but questions, she stepped further into the unknown, ready to unravel the secrets that might finally reveal who he was and why the world had forgotten him. The folded piece of paper that the man carried in his pocket was the only tangible clue to his identity, and to Anna, it represented a fragile thread connecting him to a hidden past. She carefully unfolded the note under the harsh light of the interrogation room, revealing a few hurried words alongside a strange collection of symbols. The handwriting was rushed but deliberate, as though the writer had little time yet knew the message's importance. Find a truth before it's too late. Those words echoed in Anna's mind, haunting her with their urgency. What truth? And what was the impending danger? The cryptic symbols beside the message only deepened the mystery, patterns that resembled an ancient code, or perhaps the shorthand of scientists. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. This was no ordinary note. The note became the centerpiece of their investigation. Anna enlisted the help of experts, cryptographers, linguists, and historians to decode the strange symbols. Some suggested the markings resembled a forgotten language or a secret cipher used in covert operations. Others thought they might be scientific notations related to memory or psychology. Each theory only added more layers to the enigma. The man himself stared at the note with a mixture of longing and frustration. He tried to memorize every line, hoping to unlock a memory or find a clue hidden in the handwriting's curves and angles. Sometimes, in moments of quiet, he traced the symbols with his fingertips, as if they could spark the memories locked inside his mind. But the note remained just words and shapes, an undeciphered puzzle. Days turned into weeks as the team worked tirelessly on the cryptic message. Anna visited the man often, reading the note aloud to him, hoping that sound or rhythm might stir recognition. Sometimes he would nod slightly or show a flicker of emotion, but never full memory. The note was a key without a lock, an invitation without an address. Then, One night, Anna received an unexpected call from a linguistics professor specializing in ancient scripts. She had sent him a photo of the symbols, and after hours of study, he identified them as a hybrid cipher combining elements of classical languages with modern encryption techniques. It was designed to conceal information so deeply that only a select few could decode it. This revelation was a breakthrough. If the note's symbols were so carefully crafted, whoever wrote it had intended to protect something extremely valuable or dangerous. The phrase, "find the truth before it's too late," wasn't just a warning. It was a desperate plea. But from whom? And why was the man entrusted with such a secret? Anna felt a renewed sense of urgency. The cryptic note wasn't just a clue to the man's identity. It was a message from the past, a call to uncover hidden knowledge before it vanished forever. She wondered if the man's lost memories were connected to this secret, if his forgotten past held answers to a greater mystery that could change everything. The man's connection to the note deepened his resolve. Though his mind was clouded, the words gave him purpose. He realized that finding the truth wasn't just about remembering his own life. It was about preventing something catastrophic from happening. The note's message echoed in his heart, urging him to push forward despite the darkness. Together, Anna and the man began to explore new avenues. They delved into archives, researched missing scientists, and examined strange phenomena linked to memory and identity. Each discovery brought them closer to a hidden world, a secret that powerful forces wanted to keep buried. Yet the deeper they went, the more danger they encountered. Anonymous warnings arrived, urging them to stop their search. Shadows moved at the edges of their investigation, watching and waiting. The cryptic note had unleashed a chain of events far beyond their control. But Anna and the man were undeterred. The note was a beacon in the fog, a symbol of hope and urgency. As long as they held it, the truth was still within reach. And with every passing day, they grew more certain that unlocking the secrets behind the cryptic message would reveal not only the man's identity, but also the fate of something much greater than either of them had imagined. With the cryptic note now partially deciphered, Anna and the man intensified their search, desperate to uncover any hidden clues that could reveal his true identity and the deeper mystery surrounding him. They combed through layers of information, archives, and records, hoping to find a thread that might connect the fragmented puzzle pieces. Each clue uncovered seemed to lead to yet another question, deepening the intrigue rather than resolving it. Anna's office became a war room, cluttered with maps, photographs, and documents pinned to corkboards, all intertwined with red string linking one lead to another. Despite the chaos, Anna maintained unwavering focus, driven by a growing conviction that the man's past was connected to something far greater than a simple case of memory loss. The man himself joined her in these sessions, sometimes quietly observing, other times offering a brief gesture or word that hinted at familiarity, yet never enough to fully illuminate his past. Among the initial breakthroughs was the discovery of a faded, partially destroyed journal buried in the archives of a university research library. The journal belonged to a scientist named Dr. Elias Marlowe, a pioneer in experimental neuroscience who had vanished under mysterious circumstances years before. The handwriting in the journal bore striking resemblance to the cryptic note's symbols, and the entries described work on memory manipulation and neural erasure, topics that matched the man's baffling condition perfectly. The journal spoke of a classified project, one that aimed to erase traumatic memories, but had ethical implications and potential dangers. One entry hinted at a subject zero, a test subject whose mind had been wiped clean, but who retained a hidden message implanted in a coded note, exactly like the one in the man's pocket. Could the man be this subject zero, a living experiment lost to the world? As Anna and the man dug deeper, they found encrypted communications linked to the project involving government agencies and private contractors. The lines between science, espionage, and conspiracy blurred, painting a picture of a dangerous game played in shadows. Each new piece of information suggested that someone powerful wanted to keep the project's existence and the man's identity secret at all costs. But it wasn't just the papers and codes. Anna discovered surveillance footage from years ago, showing a figure who bore a striking resemblance to the man, though the image was grainy and distorted. The footage depicted the figure entering a secluded facility late at night, disappearing behind locked doors with no record of leaving. This raised the chilling possibility that the man had been deliberately erased and hidden away as part of a covert operation. The man struggled to process these revelations. Though he felt a surge of recognition in some moments, the puzzle of his past remained incomplete. The more he learned, the more complex the truth seemed. Memories still eluded him, locked behind invisible barriers that no amount of investigation could penetrate. Yet, he clung to hope, fueled by the fragments of information slowly emerging from the shadows. Anna's instincts warned her that time was running out. The note's ominous message weighed heavily on her mind. Find the truth before it's too late. What was the deadline? What danger awaited if they failed? She could feel unseen eyes watching them, and subtle threats began to surface. Anonymous messages warning them to stop digging, unexplained attempts to access their files, and moments of sudden interference in their communication. Despite the mounting risks, Anna and the man pressed on. They knew that uncovering the full truth was not just about restoring a forgotten life, but about exposing a secret that could shake the very foundations of trust and memory itself. The man's fate, and perhaps the fate of many others, depended on their success. In moments of quiet reflection, the man would sit with the journal or the note, piecing together what little he could. Every symbol, every word, every shadow in the past felt like a beacon calling him forward. He began to understand that his journey was about reclaiming more than identity. It was about confronting a hidden threat lurking just beneath the surface of reality. Together, Anna and the man faced a maze of deception and danger, their determination their only guide. Each uncovered clue brought them closer to the heart of the mystery and to answers that had long been buried in silence. The road ahead was uncertain, but they would not turn back. As Anna and the man delved deeper into the secrets surrounding his erased identity, a new danger began to emerge from the shadows. Unseen eyes were tracking their every move, silent watchers lurking just beyond the edges of their investigation. The feeling of being pursued grew stronger with each passing day, a chilling reminder that the truth they sought was guarded by forces determined to keep it hidden. Anna first noticed it in subtle ways. A flicker of a shadow in the corner of her vision, a car parked too long near her home, the sudden disappearance of files she had carefully gathered. At first, she told herself it was paranoia, a side effect of sleepless nights and mounting stress. But then the threats began to arrive. Anonymous notes slipped under her office door, cryptic warnings on her phone, even an incident where her car was tampered with. The message was clear: stop digging or face the consequences. The man, too, sensed the danger. His instincts, dulled by lost memories, still whispered warnings he could not ignore. His body tensed when strangers approached, and his eyes darted constantly, searching for threats he could not name. The sterile hospital room where he had once felt safe was replaced by a world where every shadow seemed to harbor menace. Despite the danger, neither Anna nor the man considered retreating. If anything, the threats only steeled their resolve. They knew they were close, too close, to the answers that powerful people wanted to keep buried. The cryptic note's plea, find the truth before it's too late, echoed louder than ever, urging them onward even as the walls closed in. Anna took extra precautions. She changed her routines, avoided predictable patterns, and began using encrypted communications for sensitive information. She enlisted trusted allies, colleagues who understood the stakes and were willing to help protect them. But the pursuit was relentless. Shadowy figures appeared in photographs. Untraceable phone calls disturbed their meetings, and even digital surveillance seemed to encroach. The man's situation was even more precarious. Without memories to ground him, he was vulnerable to manipulation or capture. Anna made sure he stayed close, guarded at all times, yet he longed to act independently, to take back control of his life rather than remain a protected secret. The tension between his desire for freedom and the need for safety created a fragile balance, one that Anna managed carefully. One night, while reviewing security footage from a nearby street camera, Anna caught sight of a figure watching their meeting place. The silhouette was too distant to identify, but its deliberate presence was unmistakable. It was a stark reminder that they were not alone in their quest, that others had agendas tied to the man's past and the dangerous knowledge he unknowingly carried. As the pursuit intensified, Anna and the man began to notice subtle clues left by whoever was trailing them. A dropped device with encrypted data, a hidden message scrawled in code on a cafe napkin. Each clue seemed like a game of cat and mouse, a dangerous puzzle designed to confuse and intimidate. Yet these breadcrumbs also hinted at a larger story, one that extended beyond the man's lost identity to a web of secrets involving covert experiments and suppressed truths. Despite the fear and uncertainty, hope flickered in their determination. Every step forward was a victory against the forces trying to erase not only the man's past, but also their future. They knew that, to survive, they had to outsmart their pursuers, uncover the conspiracy, and reclaim the lost memories that held the key to everything. In moments of quiet solidarity, Anna reassured the man that they were not alone, that together they could face whatever darkness loomed. The man, in turn, found strength in her unwavering belief, drawing courage from a partnership born in mystery and forged by shared danger. The shadowy pursuit was more than a threat. It was a test of their resolve, a crucible that would either destroy them or lead them to the truth. As they navigated the maze of secrets and shadows, Anna and the man knew one thing with certainty. They could not stop now. The truth waited in the darkness, and they would find it before it was too late. After weeks of relentless pursuit and tireless investigation, Anna finally caught a glimpse of a breakthrough that could change everything. It happened one quiet evening as she pored over digital files, cross-referencing data from various sources. A pattern emerged, a connection between the missing scientist, Dr. Elias Marlowe, and a classified government project codenamed Project Echo. The project, shrouded in secrecy, was rumored to involve advanced experiments in memory manipulation and identity erasure. The discovery electrified Anna. If the man was connected to Project Echo, it explained his vanished identity and the cryptic note. She immediately shared her findings with the man, watching closely for any flicker of recognition. His eyes, tired but attentive, seemed to reflect a faint spark, a sign that this lead might unlock more than just documents. Anna dug deeper into Project Echo's origins and operations. She learned that it had been initiated years earlier as an experimental program to treat psychological trauma by selectively erasing painful memories. But the project had darker applications, using neural technology to completely rewrite or erase identities. Subjects were recruited under covert circumstances, and their existence was erased from all records. The project was supposedly shut down after reports of side effects and ethical violations, but rumors suggested some operations had continued in secrecy. Armed with this new information, Anna and the man traced Project Echo's activities to a remote research facility hidden deep in the mountains. Satellite images showed abandoned buildings and signs of recent activity. This was a place where science and shadow converged, a place that might hold the answers to the man's past and the truth behind the erased identities. The man's emotions were a turbulent mix of fear, hope, and determination. The possibility that he had been a subject in this clandestine project raised questions about his own autonomy, his memories, and the very essence of his existence. Was he a victim, a prisoner, or something more? The answer lay hidden in the shadows of the research facility, waiting to be uncovered. Anna arranged a covert expedition to the facility, assembling a trusted team of experts and allies. The journey was dangerous, with the knowledge that their enemies would do everything to stop them. Yet, the urgency to uncover the truth outweighed the risks. The cryptic note's warning, find the truth before it's too late, resonated louder than ever in their minds. As they approached the facility under the cover of night, the air grew thick with tension. The man's heart pounded with anticipation and dread. What would they find inside? Evidence of the experiments? Records of erased lives? Or something even more terrifying? Proof that the project's reach extended far beyond what they imagined? The breakthrough was not just in finding the facility, but in discovering a hidden lab containing encrypted files and experimental data. The files hinted at the use of cutting-edge neural technology capable of not only erasing memories, but implanting new ones. The implications were staggering. Identities could be manufactured, erased, or altered, leaving victims trapped in a reality they did not choose. Among the files, Anna found a partial file labeled with the man's name, or what might have been his name before erasure. The data was fragmented, but contained glimpses of his life. Images, personal notes, and recorded interviews showing a man caught in a web of secrecy and betrayal. These fragments were both a key and a curse, illuminating his past while revealing the dangers he faced. This breakthrough ignited a fire within both Anna and the man. The path ahead was clearer, but the stakes had never been higher. They now held evidence powerful enough to expose a conspiracy that threatened not only their lives, but the very fabric of personal identity and memory itself. The man's journey to reclaim himself had reached a critical turning point. With Anna's support and the newfound evidence, he was ready to confront the forces that had erased him and to fight for a future where no one's identity could be stolen again. The breakthrough was just the beginning, a gateway to the truth that would change everything. With a breakthrough from the hidden research facility fresh in their minds, Anna and the man knew it was time to confront the shadows of the past that had erased his identity and haunted his existence. The fragmented files and encrypted data had exposed the reality of Project Echo, but the man's true story, the reasons for his disappearance and memory wipe, remained locked behind layers of secrecy. Now, he was determined to face those truths head-on, no matter how painful they might be. The journey to confront his past began with revisiting the places that appeared in the recovered files. Though the man's memories were elusive, certain locations evoked a flicker of familiarity. An old cafe, a quiet park bench, a crumbling warehouse. These places became anchors in the sea of forgotten moments, fragments of a life once lived, but now buried beneath layers of manufactured amnesia. Anna accompanied him on these visits, gently guiding and supporting him. Each step forward stirred emotions: fear, hope, confusion, and determination. The man wrestled with questions about who he had been before the erasure. Was he a willing participant or a victim? What secrets had he known that made him a target? And most haunting of all, did any part of his former self still remain inside? Their investigation led them to a former colleague of Dr. Elias Marlowe, a scientist named Dr. Helen Graves. Though retired and cautious, Dr. Graves agreed to meet, drawn by Anna's persistence and the urgent nature of the inquiry. In a quiet cafe, she revealed pieces of the man's past with careful discretion. He had been a key subject in Project Echo, chosen for his unique neural profile and involvement in experimental trials. Dr. Graves explained that the memory wipes were not always successful. Some subjects retained residual fragments or hidden messages embedded within their minds, a safeguard designed to preserve vital information. The cryptic note, she confirmed, was one such message deliberately encoded to guide the man back to the truth. The man absorbed this revelation with a mixture of relief and sorrow. His lost memories were not random, but a protective barrier, shielding him from dangerous knowledge. The realization deepened his resolve to reclaim what had been taken, to piece together the fragments and understand his role in a secret battle between knowledge and power. As they delved further, Anna and the man uncovered evidence of a covert organization operating in the shadows, determined to control the technology behind memory manipulation. This group had orchestrated his erasure to silence him, fearing that his memories held the key to exposing their plans. The danger was far from over. It had only grown more complex. Despite the threats and uncertainty, confronting the past brought clarity. The man began to feel a sense of identity emerging from the fog, a slow but steady reclamation of self. The faces, names, and moments that had once been lost started to return in fleeting flashes. He realized that memory was not just about recalling facts, but about reclaiming agency, choosing who to be despite the shadows cast upon him. Anna remained steadfast, her belief in his strength unwavering. Together, they planned their next move, to confront those responsible for his erasure and to expose the conspiracy before it could silence them forever. The road ahead was fraught with peril, but the man was no longer running from the past. He was ready to face it, armed with truth and courage. As night fell over the city, the man stood looking out over the skyline, feeling the weight of his lost years and the promise of what lay ahead. He was no longer invisible. He was a man reclaimed by memory, purpose, and hope. The past had been a prison, but now it was the key to freedom. In the tangled web of secrets surrounding the man's lost identity and Project Echo, Anna and the man realized they needed more than just their own determination. They needed an ally, someone with inside knowledge and the courage to risk everything. Their search led them to a mysterious figure known only as Lena, a former operative who had quietly resisted the shadowy forces controlling the memory manipulation technology. Lena's existence had been whispered about in covert circles, a ghost who moved unseen and gathered information from the deepest recesses of the conspiracy. When Anna first contacted her, Lena was cautious and elusive, reluctant to trust anyone. But as Anna explained the stakes and the man's unique situation, Lena's resolve softened, recognizing the urgency of their cause. Meeting Lena in a discreet, dimly lit safe house on the outskirts of the city, Anna and the man felt a shift in their fortunes. Lena brought with her not only critical intelligence, but also access to secure networks and underground resources that could help them expose Project Echo's darkest secrets. Her knowledge of the organization's inner workings was invaluable. Lena revealed the extent of the shadow organization's reach, its operatives embedded within governments, corporations, and research institutions. The technology behind memory erasure had become a weapon for control, capable of erasing dissent, rewriting loyalties, and silencing truth. Those in power feared exposure above all else. The man listened intently as Lena described covert missions, close calls, and narrow escapes. She had once been part of the system, but had broken away after witnessing abuses that shattered her conscience. Her courage was a beacon of hope for Anna and the man, showing that resistance was possible even against overwhelming odds. Together, the trio devised a plan to infiltrate key data centers and retrieve evidence that could bring the conspirators to justice. The risks were immense, but Lena's expertise and insider knowledge gave them a fighting chance. For the man, this alliance was more than strategic. It was deeply personal. Lena's defiance inspired him to reclaim not only his identity, but his voice and agency. As they prepared for the infiltration, trust grew between them. The man, once isolated and lost, found a sense of belonging with Anna and Lena. Their shared mission forged a bond that transcended fear and uncertainty. They were no longer alone in the shadows. Together, they stood against the darkness. The night before the operation, Lena shared a piece of her own story, a glimpse of the sacrifices she had made and the betrayal she had endured. Her honesty strengthened their resolve, reminding them of what was at stake. The fight for truth was not just about memories. It was about justice, freedom, and the right to be oneself. With a hidden ally by their side, Anna and the man felt the tide turning. The path ahead was perilous, but they now carried the weapons of knowledge, courage, and unity. The conspiracy that had tried to erase a man from existence was about to face its reckoning. As dawn approached, the trio steeled themselves for what lay ahead. The man looked to Anna and Lena, feeling a newfound strength coursing through him. The shadows that once threatened to consume him were receding, replaced by a fierce determination to reclaim his past and protect the future. The night was thick with tension as Anna, the man, and Lena prepared to infiltrate the heavily guarded data center that housed the secrets of Project Echo. Every detail of their plan had been meticulously crafted: silent entry, bypassing security systems, and retrieving the encrypted files that could unravel the conspiracy. They knew the risks were immense. Discovery meant certain capture or worse. But the stakes were higher than ever. The truth needed to be exposed. As they approached the facility under the cloak of darkness, their hearts raced with a mixture of fear and determination. The man felt a strange calm amid the storm, a resolve strengthened by the allies beside him. Lena moved with practiced stealth, her knowledge of the building's layout invaluable. Anna's mind raced through contingencies, ready to adapt at a moment's notice. The outer perimeter was secured with electronic fences and surveillance cameras. Lena disabled the alarms with expert precision, allowing them to slip inside undetected. Every step echoed faintly in the cold corridors, heightening their senses. They communicated with hand signals, aware that any sound could betray their presence. Inside the data center, rows of servers hummed softly, the lifeblood of the secret project. Anna connected her portable decryptor to the main console, fingers flying over the keys as she bypassed encryption protocols. The tension was palpable. Any mistake could trigger an alarm. The man stood watch, alert for any sign of intrusion. Minutes felt like hours as Anna worked to extract the data. The files revealed damning evidence, details of memory manipulation experiments, lists of erased subjects, and communications implicating powerful figures. The truth was far worse than they had imagined, a vast network of control hidden behind layers of deceit. Suddenly, a distant alarm sounded. The security system had detected an anomaly. Panic surged, but Lena's calm voice urged focus. They had triggered a silent alert, and time was running out. Anna accelerated her efforts, finally downloading the critical files onto a secure drive. As they prepared to exit, footsteps echoed in the hall. Guards were closing in fast. The trio split up, using pre-planned escape routes. The man ran through narrow maintenance tunnels, heart pounding, mind sharp despite the adrenaline. Anna and Lena covered each other, moving with urgency born from desperation. The chase was relentless. The man's breath came in ragged gasps as he navigated the maze of corridors. Memories still distant, but his survival instincts razor-sharp. He thought of the life stolen from him, the truth he fought to reclaim. Each step forward was a defiant act against the erasure imposed on him. Finally, they regrouped at a safe house on the city's outskirts, breathless but victorious. The files were secure, their mission a success despite the dangers. The evidence they carried was a weapon powerful enough to dismantle the conspiracy and reclaim erased identities. In the quiet aftermath, the man felt a surge of hope. The path to his past was no longer blocked by shadows, but illuminated by truth. Together with Anna and Lena, he was ready to expose the darkness and fight for justice. The infiltration was a turning point, a moment where courage overcame fear and the invisible became seen. The moment they secured the data, Anna, the man, and Lena knew that the revelation would shake everything they thought they understood. The encrypted files, once decrypted, unveiled not only the depth of Project Echo's experiments, but also the sinister motivations behind it. The conspiracy reached far beyond a mere secret government project. It was a calculated attempt to control human identity itself, to rewrite history, and silence dissent forever. As they pored over the files in the safety of the hideout, the man's face grew pale. Among the documents was a dossier with his original identity and the reason for his erasure, a whistleblower who had uncovered abuses within the project. His memories, carefully suppressed, were evidence that could bring down the shadowy organization. Anna read aloud a confidential report detailing how the project's leaders used neural technology not only to erase, but to implant false memories, manipulating subjects to serve hidden agendas. The man's erased past was a testament to the dangers of such power, a man stripped of his life because he knew too much. The files revealed names of high-ranking officials involved, many of whom were still active and protecting their secrets. It became clear that exposing the truth would be perilous, risking retaliation from those who would stop at nothing to keep the project buried. The revelation sent a ripple of shock and determination through the group. The man grappled with the enormity of what he had endured, his life stolen, his identity erased, and his memories buried under layers of deception. But amidst the pain, a fierce resolve emerged. He was no longer a victim, but a survivor with a mission: to reclaim his life and ensure no one else suffered the same fate. Anna vowed to use the evidence to alert the public and enlist allies who could help dismantle the conspiracy. Lena, with her network of underground contacts, prepared to mobilize support and protection. Together, they planned a strategic release of the information to maximize impact while safeguarding themselves from retaliation. In the days that followed, the revelation shaped every decision. The man, once lost in confusion, began to piece together his fragmented past with growing clarity. The faces and places he had glimpsed before took on new meaning, connected by the threads of truth now visible in the light. The burden of the revelation was heavy, but it was also a turning point. The shadows that had obscured his life were lifting, replaced by a commitment to justice and the power of truth. The man's identity was no longer just a mystery. It was a cause, a fight against erasure and control. As they prepared to confront the world with the truth, the trio knew the road ahead would be dangerous. The revelation was only the beginning. Those who had orchestrated the project would not surrender quietly. But armed with evidence, courage, and unity, Anna, the man, and Lena were ready to face whatever came next. In the quiet moments before action, the man looked at his companions, gratitude and hope shining in his eyes. The revelation had changed everything. It had given him back his past and a future worth fighting for. The day of reckoning arrived with a tense blend of anticipation and danger. Armed with the explosive evidence uncovered during their infiltration, Anna, the man, and Lena moved swiftly to expose Project Echo to the world. Carefully coordinating with trusted journalists and human rights organizations, they prepared a meticulous release of the files, videos, documents, and testimonies that would leave no room for denial. Anna spearheaded the effort, reaching out to international media outlets known for their integrity and courage. The man, though still grappling with the emotional weight of his erased past, stood firm beside her. Lena coordinated security measures and ensured their communications remained secure. They understood the magnitude of the moment. Once the truth was out, there would be no turning back. The first report was a shockwave that rippled across the globe. News anchors described the clandestine experiments in memory manipulation, the erasure of innocent lives, and the sinister attempts by powerful figures to control identities. Public outrage grew as details surfaced, and calls for accountability echoed through social media and governments alike. Amid the frenzy, the man faced media scrutiny, his identity no longer a mystery. Interviews allowed him to share his story, a story of survival, courage, and the fight for justice. His vulnerability and determination resonated deeply with audiences worldwide. He was no longer invisible, but a symbol of resistance against manipulation and erasure. However, the exposure also brought danger. Threats and attempts to discredit the trio escalated. Shadowy forces moved quickly to contain the fallout, employing propaganda and intimidation. Anna, Lena, and the man found themselves targets, forced to stay vigilant and adapt to new challenges daily. Despite the risks, the exposure ignited a movement. Whistleblowers came forward, governments launched investigations, and watchdog organizations intensified scrutiny of projects involving neural technology. The ripple effect was undeniable. Project Echo's secrets could no longer hide in the shadows. The man felt a bittersweet mix of emotions. The exposure was a victory, but it also meant confronting the full scope of what had been lost. Memories that had been erased returned in fragments, sometimes painful, but always precious. Each revelation brought him closer to reclaiming his true self. Anna and Lena remained steadfast, providing unwavering support. Together, they navigated the turbulent aftermath of exposure, knowing the fight for justice was far from over. Their courage had illuminated a dark corner of the world, inspiring hope and demanding change. As night fell, the man reflected on the journey, from a forgotten passenger with no luggage and no identity, to a man who had reclaimed his name, his story, and his future. The exposure was more than a revelation. It was the beginning of a new chapter where memory and truth would no longer be weapons of control, but shields of freedom. The fallout from the exposure of Project Echo swept across nations like a storm. Governments scrambled to respond as investigations began into the shadowy forces behind the memory manipulation program. The man, Anna, and Lena found themselves at the epicenter of a global reckoning, where justice and retribution clashed with denial and power. In the weeks that followed, a cascade of arrests and resignations rocked the corridors of power. High-ranking officials implicated in the conspiracy faced intense public scrutiny, and secretive organizations once hidden beneath layers of deception were thrust into the harsh light of accountability. The man watched as those who had tried to erase him now confronted the consequences of their actions. Yet, the reckoning was far from simple. Political maneuvering and attempts to minimize the damage created obstacles. Powerful interests sought to discredit the trio and manipulate the narrative, using media spin and legal challenges to muddy the waters. The man and his allies had to navigate a complex battlefield of truth and lies. Despite these challenges, the man's resolve never wavered. He testified before international commissions, sharing his story with unwavering honesty and strength. His courage inspired others who had suffered under similar programs to speak out, fueling a broader movement for human rights and ethical oversight of emerging technologies. Anna and Lena continued their tireless work, coordinating with legal teams and advocacy groups to ensure that the revelations led to meaningful reforms. They pushed for legislation to regulate neural technologies and protect individual identities from manipulation. The fight was no longer just personal. It was a battle for the future of humanity. As the world grappled with the implications of Project Echo, the man reflected on his own transformation. He had emerged from the shadows not as a victim, but as a symbol of resistance and hope. His journey, from a forgotten passenger with no luggage and no identity to a man reclaimed by truth, was a testament to the power of memory and the resilience of the human spirit. The reckoning brought both closure and new beginnings. While wounds remained, justice moved closer with every step forward. The man knew the path ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but he faced it with renewed purpose. He was no longer invisible. His story was a beacon for those fighting against erasure and control. In quiet moments, surrounded by trusted friends, he allowed himself to dream of a future where memory was sacred, identity inviolate, and freedom absolute. The reckoning was not just an end, but a promise that no one would ever be forgotten again. The sun rose over the city like a symbol of hope, bathing the streets in a golden light that promised renewal and change. After the storm of revelations, exposures, and reckonings, a fragile peace settled around Anna, the man, and Lena. The battle against Project Echo was far from over, but the world had awakened to the dangers of memory manipulation, and the seeds of transformation had been sown. For the man, this new beginning was deeply personal. Freed from the shadows of erased identity, he embraced the opportunity to rebuild his life with the clarity and strength he had fought so hard to reclaim. Memories, once distant and fragmented, now returned in waves, sometimes painful, sometimes joyous, but always real and his own. Anna stood by his side as they moved forward together, their bond forged through trials and triumphs. She had become not only a steadfast ally, but a true friend and companion. Lena, too, remained close, a reminder of the courage it took to stand against overwhelming odds and the power of solidarity. With the world watching, the man took a step toward a future once unimaginable. He began sharing his story openly, not just as a victim, but as a voice for those who had been silenced. Public speaking engagements, advocacy campaigns, and collaborations with human rights organizations filled his days. His message was clear: memory and identity are fundamental human rights that must be protected at all costs. The global response was inspiring. Governments enacted new laws regulating neural technologies, creating safeguards to prevent abuses like those seen in Project Echo. Scientific communities engaged in ethical debates, pushing for transparency and accountability. Grassroots movements grew, empowering individuals to demand respect for their own histories and identities. Though challenges remained, shadowy forces still lurked, and the scars of manipulation lingered. The new beginning was marked by resilience and hope. The man no longer saw himself as a forgotten passenger, but as a pioneer, charting a path toward a future where no one would be erased or forgotten again. In quiet moments, he reflected on the journey from that fateful flight, where he boarded without luggage and without a past, to this moment of reclamation and purpose. The journey had been arduous, filled with loss and discovery, danger and courage. Yet it had led to something profound: a life reclaimed, a story told, and a future embraced. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the city's skyline, the man smiled, a smile born of peace and determination. He was ready for whatever came next, armed with memory, truth, and the unshakable belief in the power of a new beginning. In a world where memories can be stolen and identities erased, the power to reclaim one's truth becomes the greatest act of courage. Our story reminds us that no matter how deep the shadows may fall, the human spirit's light can never be extinguished. The journey from invisibility to recognition is a testament to resilience, hope, and the unbreakable bond of friendship. Thank you so much for joining us on this unforgettable journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world and helps us bring more stories like this to life. We'd love to hear your opinions. What parts resonated most with you? What questions or ideas did the story spark? Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, remember, your story matters and your memory is your power.